Hello everyone, good evening. I hope everyone is doing great. So today we are going to see accessing workpage references in data class rule. Okay, so many of the juniors were asking to have a class on this one. So what is this? Okay, so if you see nowadays more and more rule we are writing in data classes. Okay, uh, because Pega is also suggesting that have the less rule in work classes and create reusable rules or more and more like all the attributes, properties, sections, when rule, keep it in the data classes. Okay, but most of the times what happens that when we are like creating rules in data classes, okay, some or other times we need to have the access of few of the attribute, okay, from the work page. Okay, I'll give you a few examples. Is like let's say that on work page we keep like the main attribute, like let's say loan number or that account number, insurance ID. So these kind of are the important attributes we keep on the work page. Now when we are like loading the data from the data class or doing some calculations, putting some when conditions, okay, in that kind of situations we need these values in the data classes. So now the question is that how we can pass this from the work page, okay, to the data classes rules. Okay, so let's see that how we can do it. So here if you see I have noted down in a three ways that pass attribute as a parameter. So let's say if you have only one or two attribute, like let's say insurance ID, loan number or account number, one attribute, two attribute we can pass as a parameter, okay, from the work layer rule to data classes, and we can use it. So this is the one way. Second way is that let's say you have many attribute you want to access. Okay, you want to access first, you want to get that value and then set something on that the work page, on the py work page. So it's like get a set you want to do on the work page based on some condition in data class rule only. Okay, so in that case, in that kind of scenario we can also need it, okay, the entire work page. So the passing one attribute will not help, so we can refer the work page directly in data classes, so that we will see. And the third is that we can pass the complete work page as a parameter, okay, and either we can get the value and set the value. So let's go ahead and see in Pega that how we can use these three. So if you see I have a very simple case type here, and what I'm doing is that on applicant ID, if you see on a, like this applicant ID is then the work class, like okay, let's say this is like a count number, okay, and then the applicant details, these attributes are there on the data classes. Okay, so let me create one case and show you how the values looking on clipboard. Okay, applicant name John, and then let's say do. Let's create that. Let's create a case. Yeah, we created that case. Let's see the clipboard. Okay, so on the clipboard, if you see on the py workpage, so the applicant ID is there in the workpage. Okay, and then inside that applicant details we have this data. Okay, so now this data we are setting on the UI. Let's say if you want to pre-populate this data based on some conditions, based on these conditions applicant ID. Okay, so applicant ID, let's say we are setting in a work class data transform, and then these attributes we want to set in that in the data class data transform. So let's see how we can do that. So for that what we'll be doing, okay, first we'll be creating a data transform. So I've already created pre-create dt, and then here our data transform is ready. So on the very first step, let's say I'll be setting the applicant ID. So applicant ID, let's say I'm setting 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, now let's say based on this applicant ID, if I have to set that applicant details, so how we can do it. Okay, so what we'll be doing, when rule, and then we'll say dot applicant ID, and then we can do it like this. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. So then we can set the applicant details. So to set the applicant details we can do it like this. Okay, this, then dot applicant details, dot applicant name, and then the final one is that applicant ID dot co-applicant name. Okay, so let's say some value we are just giving here. So this will work fine, no issue. So this is the one way, okay, you can set. So here what we are doing, we are setting in the work layer dt only, we are setting all the data like data class attribute, individual attribute here only. So this will work, not a problem. Let's create another case and we'll see that the value is populating. Okay, see that this value came. Now you can ask a question that yes, this is fine, right? But what is the issue with this one? The issue is that let's say if you want to set these attributes in some other screens as well, so you need to redo the same thing, okay? And here you each time, let's say we have to we just set 3 properties, so this is fine. But what if we have to refer 20 attributes here, okay? So then this scenario will not work, okay? Each time you have to refer applicant details and then Aadhaar applicant details dot attribute applicant details dot attribute, okay? So in that case, what we can do, we can create a data transform, separate data transform in that class itself, okay? So what we can do, we'll say applicant details, and then here inside this one, okay, we'll say update page. So we are taking a context of applicant details, that data class, and here we'll say set applicant details. So we are creating a new DT here, okay? So I'll say apply data transform. So this DT will automatically gets created in the data class. So you can see the data applicant, okay? Now let's save that rule first, comment, go back to this rule, and then delete this step 3. Step 3 is now not required. Now we created the DT, okay? And here let's say if you want to replicate the same thing when applicant ID equals to 1 2 3 4 5, then we want to set. So if you see, now we don't have to refer that applicant details each time, that object we don't have to refer, we can refer directly that individual property. So it's easy, right? So let's say I'll say ABC, and then applicant name is John, and then a co-applicant is Doe, something like that. So here the first thing is that this DT can be reused in other places as well, okay? And the second thing is this, that we don't have to refer that attribute applicant details each time. Now this will not work because this is like we are able to say, but this applicant details we need to pass it from this DT. This applicant details we need to pass it. So the first way is that we can pass as a parameter. So what we can do, we can say that param.applicant ID. We can define like param.applicant ID, and then we can say like this, okay? So we will be setting an applicant ID in parameter, and then in this DT we can go ahead and define that parameter here, applicant ID, and then here we can refer param.applicant ID here as well. So then it will work, okay? So basically the first way is that we are passing as an individual parameter, okay? So now if I'll go here in pre-DT, okay, if I'll refresh, we'll see that the options is coming. So we can select this pass current parameter page. So then whatever the applicant ID we are passing, it will go. Now let's trace and see that, okay, that how this is working. So let's trace this one. I'll just go, and we have referred that data transform in pre, right? So we'll just refresh this case only, so we can see that, okay? Let me refresh this and click on go. So then this DT will call. So you can see that this condition is getting true and the applicant details is setting, okay, whatever we set in the data transform, okay, in data class 1. So you can see that this rule is set applicant ID. It is calling from the data class 1. In work, we are doing nothing. We just like calling that the data class rule, okay? So the main rule in the work layer, we have a kind of a main rule, and then the child rule, okay, it's there in the data class. And how we pass that value applicant ID is, you can see that we passed as a parameter. So if I search here 1 2 3 4, okay, so you can see that we passed applicant ID 1 2 3 4, and this is working fine. So this is good so there is no issue with this approach, okay? The issue will come is that, let's say if you want to pass that, if you want to access 20 attribute in this data class from work, okay? So here you can see that we are just setting one attribute, applicant ID, no issue. But what if we have to pass a bunch of attributes, let's say 20 or 30 attributes, okay? I mean, sometimes it happens, we might not need that much attribute, or if you want to, so here in this scenario, we're just getting that applicant ID, right? But what if you want to set something here on the work page, let's say from this data transform, you want to set the value of applicant ID, there could be possibility, you'll get that kind of scenario also. So this for the get, this is fine. This approach is fine, but what if you want to set that value, okay? So then we need to go into the second approach. If you just want to get that value and then few attributes, then this approach passing as an individual attribute is fine, okay? Now the second approach is that, let's say I want to get that attribute value in data class from the work, plus I want to update that as well, okay? So how we can do that. Okay, so for that what we can do, we can define here directly pyWorkPage. Okay, so let's say I'll say pyWorkPage in this data class, and then I'll give that same class here. Okay, so this is the second approach, okay, from our slide. So now what we can do, we can refer the pyWorkPage directly here and it will work. Okay, we can copy and create one more instances, like paste below, and this time I'll say 4 5 6 7. So now let's trace and see that. So obviously this will work. We are directly referring pyWorkPage. Okay, and this is what the most of the applications is doing as of now. Or even if you're a junior, if you don't know, then you are referring directly pyWorkPage like this. Okay, so let's refresh the case again and see the tracer. Let's click on go. So we can see that the values are still populating and the condition is true. Okay, and we can directly referring pyWorkPage.applicant ID. Okay, so there is no problem, we are using it. Okay, but there is a problem is that Pega is saying, and it's not a best practice to refer directly pyWorkPage. Okay, then what is, okay, so we should not refer that. Okay, even though if you go in any existing applications which have been developed in 6.x or 7.x, you will find this kind of a things a lot. Okay, but we need to avoid this practice, okay, which we keep on doing. So what is the other alternative? So in pyWorkPage, so the one alternate is that we can refer top. Okay, so if we just say top, okay, we cannot use primary. So few juniors were asking, sir, can we use primary here? No, we cannot use primary, because if you use the primary, okay, so the primary page is that applicant details. So this page is that, because on this page we are calling, right? So this is the context page. So in this DT, primary is referring to your applicant details only. Okay, so here we are getting an issue. Just I need to refresh that. I'll just refer primary here to make you understand that this primary is nothing. Okay, so I'll just, if I'll refer primary, this will refer to the data class, not that the work class, because most of the times what juniors developer understand that the primary is the pyWorkPage. No, primary is the the current page context. Okay, current step page. Let me trace and show you what the primary is coming. Okay, so I'll just refresh this again, click on go. So now if you see, in place of primary, see update page, it's coming pyWorkPage.applicant details. So this is the primary page, okay, not the pyWorkPage. So don't get confused. And now if you see, we refer the top.applicant ID. So that is getting true, means the top is acting as a pyWorkPage here. Okay, so if you really want to access that property, you can do it like this. Okay, and let's say after doing this, you want to set also, okay, inside this one, if you want to set on top, okay, let's say on pyWorkPage, if you want to set some value, okay, let's say BGB approved on top, okay, and you want to set true, so then you can do it from here. So in this scenario, we are getting plus setting as well, okay, getting from the work page and setting on the work page. In the first scenario, we can just get it. Okay, so let's see that. We'll see on the tracer. Okay, if I'll execute again, so we'll see that the value of BGB is being set. So refresh and click on go. So if you see here, what is the issue is coming. And okay, I think BGB is it's not true, is not the value. Okay, so we need to just set yes, but it's working, not a problem. So valid value is not a true, so yes should work. So you can see that actually it's a setting. Okay, if you see on pyWorkPage, on applicant details we are not setting. Okay, we are setting on pyWorkPage. If I'll see the pyWorkPage and if I'll go and search BGB approved, so you can see that the true value is coming. So what we are doing in this one, okay, we are getting the value, okay, from the work page, okay, in data class, and then setting on the work page in data class itself like this, okay, using references of top, not the pyWorkPage. So this is what, like, let's say if you don't know and if you really have to use that pyWorkPage, okay, then use the top. Okay, so this is one approach you can take. What is this error? Okay, source is ambiguous, so that's the same, it's complaining. Okay, so let me just, and the warning will go away. So again, let's repeat, go back to our slides. So the first approach is that passing single value, like let's say if in data classes you need few attributes from workpage, you can pass directly as a parameter, okay, but then this will just work as a get, okay, means that in data classes you are just referring for putting some condition or something. But what if that in the data transform itself, if you want in data class data transform, if you want to update the workpage as well, okay, so in that kind of a scenario you can use top, okay, and using top you can get that and set that as well, okay. So this is the second way. What if that, like, if your lead is saying no, avoid this one as well, so is there any other approach? Okay, so yes, there is a third approach, passing that entire work page as a parameter, and this is one I also prefer that, okay, because top sometimes create confusion. But if you pass that the whole page as a parameter and then either get that value or set the value on that parameter page, so I'll show you how we can do that. So in third approach, what we need to do, first we need to define in data classes one page, okay, parameter page. So here I'm just saying that work page, okay, and then we need to select the page, the data type as a page name. So now the moment if I'll define any parameter as a page, we need to define in pages and classes. So then I'll just define like this, and this is the class I'll give. Now what it will become, we will pass this work page, okay, from that, like the calling data transform, from wherever we will call this data transform, okay, and this will act here as a work page, okay, like a work page of the py work page. So just to see that, I'll just refer here and then here as well, and then in all over the places we can replace top with work page, okay, and let's see if it is working. And before that, just we need to make sure that we are passing that work page from here, okay. So here for now I'm just passing that here I can say primary as well, I can pass primary, or I can say py work page, okay. So let's say for now I'm just passing py work page, okay, hardcode value. But this also you can avoid using a functions. I didn't remember the functions, but there is a functions to get the step page and pass that dynamically, okay. So that also you can do it. So now what will happen, what Pega will do, okay, here we have already marked that pass current parameter page. So it will take that, it will take py work page, okay, because the name of our page, okay, primary page is py work page. So it will pass that py work page into a parameter work page, and then here in this data transform, that work page will get converted and it will become the py work page, okay. So let's see that, let's see in the tracer what is happening. Let's refresh and click on go. So if you see that the work we referred, so here we can see that py work page on the step 1, but what we have referred that work page, okay. So it's a parameter page, okay. So this is working, right? So you can see that we pass that whole page, okay. So here you don't have a tension that, oh, you have if you want to access one attribute or you want to access 5 attribute, you got that whole entire page, and now using that page you can access, you can put the conditions, or if you want to set something, that also you can do that. So see in the end, if I'll go and see the py work page, we should see the BGV approved value as a yes. You can see that, okay. So this is the third way through which we can access the work page attributes in data classes, okay. And this is very much important because as I'm explaining that most of the times we are nowadays writing rules in data classes itself, and this parameter page one, okay, concept is very flexible when we are passing from one data transform to, like, from the work data transform to data transform. But sometimes you might face issue in other rule type. Let's say if you are using UI, okay, where you need to pass that value, okay, from that work page, okay, from work page, okay. If let's say if you have a drop down, okay, on that, like in data class, and the drop downs take some parameter from the work page, so in that kind of a scenario you can use top, okay, there you can use it. But if you have a data transform activity, you can use this py work page as a parameter. Let me show you what I'm trying to say, that UI part, okay. There you need to you need to refer that the top. So let's say here I want to populate the applicant ID as a Aadhaar number, okay. So how we can do that? Let's say if you really want to do that. So here also we can pass that work page as a parameter, but we usually avoid that in sections and all, okay. So then here how you can do that, you can simply refer top.applicant ID, okay. Or let's say if you want to populate let's say here, okay, if I'll say this one is a drop down, okay. So this scenario will come a lot, okay. So let's say drop down, and in that drop down, if you're calling a data page, So let's say if I'm selecting data page, and then on the data page, let's say if I'm just selecting any data page, let's say let me select any data page that's not taking parameter. Let me select the underscore applications just for, yeah. So see, it's asking for a parameter. So like what if that this parameter, so if I refer this all attribute is coming from the data classes right here, but what if that if you want to pass some parameter from the work page, okay, so here the context is our rule is there, the applicant sections is there in the data applicant, and I want to pass the attribute to get the drop down d underscore applications is expecting some value which is there on the work page. So in that kind of a scenario you can refer like this, top that applicant id. So this will work. You need to define this top. So you can see that the moment I'm referring top dot, then I'm getting the property from the work page. Okay, so in sections you might need to use a top, but in data transform you can pass few, like if you need only few attribute and you don't want to set any value, just get, then you can use single, like using parameter 2-3 parameter. But if you want to access the whole, you can pass the whole as a parameter page and do the get or set. So in sections you can refer like this. Okay, so if I'll save, it will work. Obviously this is not working because okay, so this property and all is giving me error, but I don't want to define here because obviously this Aadhaar is not a drop down. Okay, but just I wanted to show you, okay, that in what kind of a scenario, let's recap that in what kind of scenario where we can use. So the first one is pass attribute as a parameter. So as I mentioned that in data classes you just want few attribute, okay, from the work, and you just want to put the conditions, you don't want to set anything on the work page, then you can use the first one. The second one is that you want to access that pyWorkPage, okay, for the get and set both in data classes, like getting some attribute, doing some calculations, okay, manipulating something, and then finally updating the work page. So in that kind of a scenario you can avoid referring pyWorkPage and you can use top, and then you can set that. And the last one you can use, you can pass that entire pyWorkPage as a parameter, okay, to the data transform, and there you can define that work page as a parameter page, okay, and then access it. So this is how we can access this. We can refer that work page. So basically this work page is referring to pyWorkPage. And this approach is very much flexible when we are using data transform and activity, but like as I said before also, that you might face some issue when we are using UI. So in UI you can refer directly top, and then it will work. Okay, so that's it for today's session. So this was a quick session. So let me know if you have any questions on this one, and try to implement that, okay, in your POC, because once you'll implement, you'll get to know and concept will get built, and at least from the future after watching this video you can avoid using directly pyWorkPage. Okay, and one of the approach what we discuss here you'll be following and avoiding that usage of pyWorkPage. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.